Any well-formatted HTML document has to have the following format. You have to have a beginning and an end HTML tag. Inside of that tag, you have a head region, sort of the header of the HTML document. Inside of those tags, you have to put a title, and I'll explain where that shows up in a minute. But let's say you have an HTML page that's called my HTML document title, and you have the body of your HTML is this is a test. So if you save this and run it, notice that you have this is a test, which is the body of the HTML, and then right up here in the title bar you have the title, which says my HTML document title. So whatever you put in the between the title tags shows up here. Now if you don't have this format, the browser will still render your page, but it's not good practice. You may get penalized from search engines as far as your search engine ranking. So it's considered poor practice if you don't follow this format. So let's talk about a few common tags. One of the most common tags is the heading tag. So let's say heading 1. We'll call this heading 2. Heading 3. There's a total of 6. Oops. Obviously your beginning and end tags have to match, so heading 5 and heading 6. Okay, so let's save this and run it. Now you'll notice that you get different size text. Well, the heading tag, as the name says, is for creating titles for your article, for your text, and so forth and so on. So depending on how big you want the title of your article to be, you would use anywhere from H1, which is the biggest header, to H6, which is the smallest header. So let's say now that we want to put some text here between each of these. Okay, Now if I save this and view it in a browser, obviously it's all going to show up on one line. So I will use what's called the break tag. And the break tag is the same exact thing as a carriage return. So now if I look at my document, they're all on separate lines. So break tag is a pretty common one. The other tag that I could have used obviously is the paragraph tag. So I could have said this is a paragraph, and when I view it, notice there's one extra space after the text. That's one of the qualities of the paragraph tag. So if you don't want the extra space, just use a break tag. If you do want the extra space between the paragraphs, then use the paragraph tag. There's a couple of other pretty common tags that I will show, such as, let's get rid of this paragraph here. As you can see, the tags, they start adding up very quickly. So one common tag that I already demonstrated is the bold tag. And the bold tag, it just makes the text bold. There's also the U tag, which is underline the text. And the I tag, which is italic. So if I look at this now, first one is bold, second one is underlined, third one is italic, right? So that's how you do some of the formatting of the text. Wherever you want to have bold font, you just surround it by with B/B. However much of a text you want to underline, you just put a U/U tag around it, and so forth and so on. There is also a tag called HR for horizontal line. So if I put right under this text just HR, now bear in mind HR is one of those tags that doesn't have an end. So unlike these tags where you've got B/B, HR is one of the few exceptions that doesn't have a closing tag. So if I look at it now, notice there's a horizontal line. And that's how you put lines. So the next item that makes sense for us to talk about is a list. And a list begins and ends with what's called the UL tag. And each item in the list is started with the LI tag and ended with the /LI. So let's put a couple of items on here just for the sake of demonstration and save it. So when you run your HTML, you now have a list. Right underneath our horizontal line, you have 4 items. List begins and ends with the UL, and each item begins and ends with the LI tag, and it has a bullet point in front of it that makes it a list. Now let's say you don't want bullets. Let's say you want, let's see. Let's say you want numbers instead. So what you would do is you would add an attribute to your UL tag called type, and you surround it with quotes. Say type equals to quote the actual number and then close quote. So if you put a 1 here, type equals 1, then you get numbers. If you change the value of this type to a capital A and save, then when you run it, you get A, B, C, D. If you put in here lowercase a, then you would get lowercase a, b, c, d, and so on. And it would increment it automatically for as many items that you have. The other option that you have is Roman numerals. If you put a capital I in here, you get Roman numerals. And the same is true if you put a lowercase I, you get lowercase Roman numeral. So the list tag is another one of those pretty useful tags that you're going to be using a lot. Now let's say your list item has another list within it. You can use the OL tag. And the OL tags works exactly the same as the UL tag, and with the exception that it's a sublist. So here if I say li sub item 1, li sub item 2, li sub item 3 with the slash in front of it, right? So let's say I do this. Now you have sublist, right? And because we didn't specify the type, it just assumed numeric. So if I change the type to type equals to say well, Roman numeral I, say, then you get Roman numerals, and so forth and so on. And notice it automatically indents it for you. Now that doesn't have anything to do with the fact that I indented the content on the screen. The indentation that you see on the screen is just for visibility, for ease of read by me. The browser ignores these indentations, these tabs, completely. The only indent that you get here is because of the list. So each list is automatically indented for better visibility, if you might. Another very common tag that you'll work with quite a bit is the div tag. Now, div tag stands for division, and what it does is it helps you divide things into groups. Usage again is div/div, and one of the things that you can do is you can style this div. You can say style equals to, and say background what's a good color? Blue. And if you come over here now, you see it in blue, right? So that not only for adding colors, and we'll cover style sheets later, but just sufficient to say that you can also give it a width in pixels of, say, 200 px, standing for pixels, right? So here I'm saying for the style element of this section, I'm saying set the background to blue and the width to 200 pixels. Notice that our section is now 200 pixels. Another tag that I could use here is if I wanted to center everything on a page, I could come here and say center, and at the end of my content say /center, and center, as the name says, centers the content. So now if I look at my page, it should be centered. Great. So that's another very useful tag. Again, I'm indenting this HTML so that I can more easily distinguish between the different elements that I'm using here. And obviously, if you have a longer text, again, this would go something like this, right? You would try to keep the same margin just for visibility, just so you can more easily find your content. Okay, so now that you understand the basic tags, let's talk about some important tags. Not that our existing tags aren't important, but there's some tags that you absolutely must have. So I'm going to create another HTML document called test3, and by the way, the editor that I'm using is called Notepad++, and it's basically the same thing as Notepad, except that it highlights the code that I put in for easier view. Notice that it puts all the codes in blue and it puts all the regular text in black. So that's what that's used for. And it's free. You can download this for free off the web. So let's talk about hyperlinks. Now let's say I have a text that says to view more information, please visit the following link, right? And if I look at this in the browser, there's no link right now. So let's say you want to add a link, make this a link, a clickable link, to go to Google. So here's how you would do it. You would use the hyperlink tag, and that starts with an A, href equals to open close tags followed by a /a tag at the end. And all this would say is beginning of the hyperlink, end of hyperlink, and the href is the actual URL, the link that you want to navigate to. Okay, so right now I'm saying navigate to Google when someone clicks on this link. This is the start of the link, this is the end of the link. So if I view it, notice now it's a hyperlink, and if I click on it, it should take me to Google, which it does. So that part of it works. Now notice when you click on the link, it takes you to that page directly and navigates away from our page. Now let's say I didn't want it to do that. I wanted it to open a new navigation screen when you click on it. So you would add an attribute here called target, and target equals to, if you put in here underscore blank, it opens up a blank screen. So now if I click on it, it opens up a new page, and it leaves our original page in place. Another variation of the hyperlink tag is the email tag, and it's pretty much identical. So let's say break. So 2 returns to go to a new line, and here I'm going to say 4 questions. Please contact us at, and here I'm going to say, let's say me at my email address.com. Now if I wanted to make it clickable so that when you click on it, it would email you, you would put a href again, followed by a /a to close it, to mark the beginning and end of the hyperlink. And here you would type mail to me at mail.com. And what this says is when someone clicks on this link, bring up a new email screen. Now if your default email client is, say, Outlook, then it would bring up a blank Outlook screen with the to email set to me at mail.com, and that would allow you to send an email to someone. If you view it in the browser, obviously it looks like a regular hyperlink, but if you click on it, it should bring up your email client. Now I don't have I don't have my email set up on this machine, but let's see if we can quickly put some information in there. And again, this is not something that you would regularly have to do. and it brings up a window. So if someone clicks on it, brings up their mail client and starts a blank email like this, with the 2 set to whatever you set your HTML. Now this obviously doesn't have to be the email. This can be my email address instead. Could be a regular text. So if I look at it, and if you click on it, it still brings up me@mail.com. That's because this is the part of the HTML that it uses to determine who the email goes to. Okay, so another one of those pretty useful tags is the image tag. And the image tag marks the beginning and end of an image. So let's see what I have here as far as images. Let's see here. Okay, so we got some sample pictures here. I'm just going to grab one of them. Sunset is fine. And I will paste it in my htdocs folder, which is my web folder. But what I will do is I'll create a new folder underneath this and call it images. And I'll paste my image in there. So now I can reference it from within my web page. So the tag for including images is img, src stands for source, equal to, and close. Now this is another one of those exceptions that doesn't have a closing tag. An image tag is just one single tag. So here I would say images. In other words, go in the images folder relative to my root web folder. Go in the images folder and grab the image sunset.jpg. So if I refresh this now, I should see an image. Oops. Looks like I missed something here. Oh, of course, I typed sunset wrong. Here we go. And that's pretty much a standard part of web development, is if you don't type things exactly like they are, you don't get what you expect. So here's my image. Now I've got an image on my website. But notice it's a little bit big. So let's shrink this thing down a bit. And I will put the width attribute. Width equals to, and let's say I want the width of my image to be 200 pixels. So I put 200. And now, much smaller image. So it's a little bit manageable now. Now, let's say you wanted to have this image so that when you click on it, it takes you to a website. And that's a pretty common thing with web design. So you would surround the image tag with a link tag, which is ahref equal to, and then followed by a /a. So here I can say whatever website I want, yahoo.com, sure, and save it. So here, if I view it now, you'll notice a blue border around this image. And this blue border means it's hyperlinked. And if I click on the image now, it takes me to the website that I said I want to go to, which is Yahoo in this case, which works great. Now let's say you don't want this blue border to show up. You would come over here for the image and say border equals to 0. And the border goes away, but it's still hyperlinked. Or if you want a bigger border, you could say border equals to 20. And where is my tool? There we go. So if I save it now, notice that every time I make a change, I save the document. So now you've got a nice thick 20 pixel border around your image. So that's how you hyperlink images. Now if you wanted to link to an image that is on a website that's outside of your own, you would put the absolute path to it. So let's pick a nice image here. Sure, Google Images is fine. And if I right click on that image, no, let's search for an image. Find an image like this guy here. If I have the link of an image outside of my own web server and I want to reference that in my HTML document, which I could, then I would come over here. Let's make the border 0 again. So I would come over here, and instead of my own image, I would just paste that link in there. And now it should reference that image, which it does. And that's great. Now, if for some reason I wanted to reference my own image the same way, I could give my own image the link to my own web server, and I would be able to still see my image and click on it. So it's considered, when you're working on your local web server, it's considered poor practice if you hard code the full link to your content. You're supposed to use relative link like this, just so that if you take your content and put it on a different web server that has a completely different link, then you won't have to redo all the different content. You don't have to go search through all the content and put in the new correct link. So use relative links when you have content on your own web server, and full hyperlinks when you have content that is on a different website. So if I wanted to link to a website like Google from my website, I would use full hyperlink. Okay, so the last topic that I'll cover in this video is tables. So I'm going to start a new document here with all our standard tags, and I'm going to name this Big surprise here. Test 4. And let's say I want to create a table on my web page, and I want to put some content in there. So the way I would accomplish this is by using the table/table tag. Big surprise there. So table means beginning of the table, /table means end of the table. And I would mark each row with the TR tag. Table row /table row. That's what TR stands for. And each cell inside of the table would be marked as, actually, let me put it slightly differently on the screen here, just in order for it to make more sense. So each table cell would be TD/TD. And here we say row 1, cell 1. And I could add more cells. So my second cell would be row 1, cell 2. And my third one would be row 1, cell 3. And if I had more rows, I would do it the same way. Let's say this would be row 2 now. And this would be row 3. So what did I just do? That's pretty much the definition of a table. Is if you have a table row, inside of that row you have a table cell, and you have 3 different table cells. Then you start the next row, and the next row has again some table cells. So if I run this now, I should get a table, hopefully. And there it is. Now notice there's no borders. The table is there, but it doesn't have any borders. So what we'll do is we'll say table border equals to, let's say I want a border of 1 pixel. So now you got a border. And then something else that I'm noticing here is that the cells are a little bit squished together. So let's say we want to pad them a little bit. So we'll use the cell padding attribute and say we want 20 pixels space between each side of the cell. So now you've got a lot more spacing, right? So you can pretty much outline your website in this format. And you can, if you want to cover the whole width of the page, you would also say width equals to 100%. Now you can also use percentages when you're talking about width and height. And you can say height is equal to, well, should keep it lowercase, height equals to, again, 100%. So what did I just do? I told my table to cover the whole width and height of the page. So when I view it now, it covers the whole width and height of the page. Okay, so, and that's pretty much a table. Now, let's say that you wanted to have 3 let's say you wanted to have 3 cells on one row, but you only wanted 1 cell on another. Well, You can do that. So let's say I take out the first one here, right? And I can say, oh, actually, let's do the second one here. So I'll take out all the cells that I don't need here. Okay? And here in the TD tag, I say call span for column span is 3. And what this says is span with this one cell span 3 different columns, hence the name call span. So now if I look at it, what do you know? The middle row spans all 3 cells, and that's great. So let's go even further here. Let's say I want this table row here to be a height of 20 pixels, and same for the bottom one. So here we got, wow, what do you know, that's starting to look like a website, right? Here's your main content, there's your navigation links, and some more navigation links in the footer. So you got a table that has some stuff in the first row, the main content, and the bottom footer links. So you can do a lot of web design in this format by just, outlining it like that. And usually you can specify a different color for each cell, obviously. So here, if I set for the table row, I set background equals to what's a good color? All right, let's say red. So, and here we'll say background equals to blue. And the background attribute just is exactly that. It gives it a different background color. Oh, that didn't quite work out the way we wanted. Alright, let's put this in the actual cell. Oh, actually, sorry. This should be BG color, not background. Alright, let's put this back here. Okay, sorry for the cut and paste. Alright, so we should have used the BG color. Ah, there we go. So, red, white, and blue. I don't know if that's the website you want to create, but good colors. So you can pretty much get creative with this. You can do a lot of things just by using tables and put in different contents in different rows. So I hope that you found this tutorial useful. And again, if you have any questions, you can always email me. Everyone should have my emails at this point. And thanks for watching. Have a great day.